Hey, babe, I'm back. So, hi, I'm Farm Baby. If you're new here, um, this is the second video in a three, but really like six, kind of even 7-part series. It'll make sense if you watch them all. Um, so don't start with this one if this is your first time seeing me. So, the second boulder that my God instructed me to remove from in front of my tomb before I can move into phase two of my channel is my own relationship, namely gratitude or lack thereof, around my own creativity. And if you saw my God video, my cussing out God video, I made it abundantly clear that I play in my God's face all day. You'll understand like really how bad it is closer to the end of this series, but it won't be in this video. But I so I have been someone who like I was a performing arts kid from pre-K through my senior year in high school, right? And never doing anything like long enough consistently to like go ahead and launch into the superstardom that I was born for. But like literally like played a couple of different instruments temporarily, modeled temporarily, like like a few times. Acted, improv, not joke, more like acting improv. Singing, dancing, right? Speeches, everything, right? And so I was always like a creative kid who's just also like really good in like academic stuff. Um, and then I graduated high school and began studying finance and economics, and all of that sacral creative energy just kind of got leaked on other people that will show up in, I don't know, I think it's video 5, right? So I spent like all of my formative years, like all of my non-adult years balanced. Um, Not necessarily emotionally, but balanced with, academics and creativity. And then that suddenly stopped, at least in a way that was tangible, productive, um, for a really long time. And because it's taken me so long, again, I'll explain in video 5, because it's taken me so long to launch this channel, which wasn't ever originally going to be named this name, this framing, all of it is fairly new, but the concepts, the themes are not new. Um, and so it's taken me until I was ready. Um, and part of that is because I have been someone who, respected and admired by some people, but imitated and not credited by enough people in enough different environments that, like, on the one hand, like, okay, so because I've like tried to love in this human, right? But like Christ like way of like, I gotta meet people where they are and accept them for who they are and try not to judge, which really meant self-abandoning and ignore my discernment, but that's, video 4. Um, but because I tried really hard not to, like I've seen myself as like this humble person. video for, because that's not 100% true as I've learned about myself. Um, but I never wanted to like be the person that was like, "Oh, these hoes is biting me." Da, 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 da. But like I know my influence. I know that you weren't you weren't as much like me as you are in this moment when I first came into your life, right? I've seen that happen multiple times. And I mentioned in the guide video that I believe that all inspiration comes from the divine. And I also mentioned in that video that the divine is not the light. The divine is the light and the dark. So, you know, even terrible things, right? But I do believe that it's all divine. And so the first thing I want to say is atheist, atheist, atheist. If you're a new atheist, if you didn't see my God video, atheist. Anytime I say some term for the area where your beliefs, fall off, right? So God, source, the most high, whatever, right? Please feel free to substitute that with myself, with my talent, my hard work, my commitment, my creativity, whatever fits for you. Like, I'm gonna use the term that the majority of people that I hope to speak to are using, but I need you to know. Great if you could watch the other video, but I need you to know that for me, I am non-religious. I'm not even a part of any spiritual, like specific spiritual practices, right? I am sovereign spiritually. But I need you to know, like, you are very safe, very welcome. You're like very safe, very welcome. But I'm not gonna do this in every video where I spend this much time with a disclaimer. So I believe that there's a level of responsibility inherent in being a creative, because being a creative is not the same as a lot of what we consume. What I mean by that is having, I won't even say a completely original idea, right? But having a semi original idea is a completely different experience than the volume of content, um, things that we're consuming that are just generated by either other humans that, some people, some new human or bot account, that's just, yoinked with or without attribution. That for me is a very different process than being somebody that has their own thoughts and they're sharing them, or has their own, excuse me, creative idea and is expressing something. And I want to say that as I'm speaking on this subject, this extends even if you don't consider yourself a creator, but you're just a creative person. Like, if you honestly, if you're just a person who, you fly, you got swag, you people bite your lingo, whatever it is that you are putting out into the world and then seeing other people respond to in a positive way, right? So, like I did in my God video, I want to, do like secular hymn, secular scripture kind of thing. Um, the one for this video is, everybody wants to be a cat, because a cat's the only cat who knows where it's at. I don't know why I'm like this. I'm grateful I'm like this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So there are, to me, three types of copycats that creative energies, creators will encounter in their, career, such as it is, right? They're sharing with the world. And they have varying degrees of, excuse me, disconnection from source, right? So and I hope I actually remember to do this, but I want to like kind of work through my own thoughts on these three different groups. And like the, first video in this series, I think I'm going to try to like talk about it from my ego space, right? And then try to find some way to elevate, I guess, or enhance with my higher self or my better self. And if you feel called out in your contribution to entertainment or content creation, that is, that's okay. Um, so the first type of copycat, right, is the student. It's the person that wants to be a dancer, so they study other people's dance moves. It's the person who's singing other people's songs, or getting really into lyrics because they want to be a songwriter. It's everybody who wants to be a rapper, right? But start off rapping their favorite rapper stuff. Um, Particularly artists, right? Like, you know, learning to trace first, and, trying to copy the pictures of your favorite cartoon characters or anime characters, right? Like, all of that is the student. And not every creative has like that kind of student phase, but most do, right? Because you want to develop a skill oftentimes in something before you go out and start to like create your own unique thing, right? And that is divine. That is a blessing, right? You're supposed to learn. And so I think that one of the things that I think social media has caused like a tension point for is from the original's perspective, there's, all the things like, IP protections. Yeah, IP protections, and, you know, even down to like just attribution, right? And so social media has done this weird thing where people will clearly be students, like clearly be trying to learn from someone else, but too arrogant to give attribution. And that's very strange, right? Because it's like nobody is just fully formed. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Learn from people. Like, I don't know when I was about to lie. I was about to lie. No Child Left Behind left the children behind. There has been a concerted effort to minimize the importance of the hard work that goes into getting good at stuff. I am not going to deep dive on that in this video, but I will at some point, right? But there's been a concerted effort in a lot of different ways. It wasn't just No Child Left Behind, but also fuck No Child Left Behind. This concerted effort to make the idea of working hard to get good at something really, really trifling, which is why I wish that there was a non, like, you better give me credit way to be very supportive of people learning. I wish it was more common. Like, I saw someone earlier to today, I think today, yesterday, whatever. I saw someone post like this painting that they had done. They hadn't painted in a while. This painting that they had done, and then the same subject of the painting, their dog, like a year later, and how much better it had gotten. And I was like, yeah, that, like, yes, that, because a lot of people that get copied did their learning, did their developing off camera, basically, right? And then students, potential students of theirs, are doing their studying or learning or whatever without necessarily interacting directly, but then popping out as though they aren't just students of, right? And so I don't know how to like marry those two tensions. But here's the other part of what I don't really know how to marry. From the student perspective, and this is also something that's going to come up in a later video. From a student's perspective, there is also this very weird way that people on the, especially like on the internet, right? And it doesn't matter like what, actually, I say on the internet because that's where I've encountered it. But I think it happens outside as well, right? Because I think this happens in academia. I think it happens in spirituality. Like I think it happens in a lot of places, right? Where a person will see that you like something that they do, or see like okay, so a person will see that like you watch their videos, right? You subscribe, maybe you engage, and they will define themselves as your teacher, as your guide, as your mentor, as your big bro, big sis, right? And that's creepy AF to me. And I think, and this is what I mean by like, talking from the ego. I think part of my great disdain for that has to do with my, previous dead and buried life in corporate America, right? But the the way that people assign themselves roles in people's lives, either that are younger than them or just less experienced in them, without that being like an actual relationship developing, like it's literally like we went to lunch a couple of times or we had a couple of cool conversations and now I'm your mentor, now I'm your teacher, now I'm your guide. And all of those roles are necessary, right? Just like the student is necessary, right? But it's very strange. It's like, again, there's a population that does not want to say, hey, I learned this from so and so and so and so. And then there's a population that wants to, grab up influence that may not be earned. Like, prime example, I watch lots of people talk about things, um, like in short form, like the kind of shorter format social media, right? TikTok, Threads, whatever. I will watch somebody talk about something that I've been familiar with for years. I just like the way they've refreshed that topic. You get what I'm saying? So it's like if I really like the way that a person talks about, say, feminism, right? If I like the way that somebody talks about feminism um, in this modern era, and I engage with them or don't, but like I like the way they talk about it. Me talking about it in a similar way does not necessarily mean that it came from you. It might just mean that I heard something that I already agreed with. And I don't feel like we have enough nuance around that either, that people can just already have known things. There are some people that are lifelong learners. And, again, going back to like the snatching of credibility, snatching of influence, I am a person who I like hearing people say things that like in a fresh way, but that I'm already like concepts I'm already familiar with. Like I enjoy that because I love creativity. So I like the fact that multiple people can speak on a subject and have slightly different ways of approaching that subject. I really enjoy that. Um, all that to say, like ego level, the student is important. The teachers, guides, whatever of the student are important. And I guess for my higher self, it's just, I wish we all had a little more gratitude. Like when somebody says to me, "Oh, I learned this from you," I feel so grateful that I was able to give that to them. Even if I don't view it as something I gave to them, right? I feel so grateful, such great responsibility that I was able to give them, some new way of considering things, right? I enjoy that, but I don't enjoy it like I'm going around purposely trying to do it. I enjoy it like, oh, I am happy to have had that, small or whatever, however you define it, moment that you're grateful for. And also, I feel a great responsibility to make sure that I help them challenge whatever the thought was or thought process, right? Because the the point of creation is for individuality to reflect the one, the all, right? It's literally, literally, we were given a home where all we had to do was eat stuff and procreate and make art. And people who lacked positive creativity ruined it for every conversation for another day. But I will be bringing this point up again, right? But conversation for another. And so there's like this minimizing again of like the hours, and effort that goes into creating things. But there's also like this minimizing of the idea of being creative because there's so much of it. Like we now have the problem with like there's so much of it that it's less valuable in a lot of ways to people, whether they consider themselves creative or not. Like a person can be a really talented comedian and still say some dumb shit about why does this custom bag cost so much that you stitched by hand and spent, you know, 300 hours of your life working on. Like capitalism is the devil and colonialism. So that's the first type of copycat. Not just necessary, but necessary and valuable. And there's weird stuff in that universe, but most creatives will have gone through that at some point. The second form of copycat is what I call like the unsure artist, right? So for me, it's like reactors who like all reaction content is not the same, right? So like the person just sitting on the screen laughing, nodding, pointing is not the same as the person who is stitching, right? Or um watching a video and getting to the end and then running through their thoughts. It's like you need a good anchor point, right? You're not coming up with like prompts necessarily on your own, typically because of the volume with which you need to have your face out, which cuts into the quality. But so it's like people like that, right? Or like the people who are really good at like um combining different things that like more interesting people are doing, but you can bring them all together in a funny way or creative way, right? So like, you know, I these are all the stories that are happening in the yarn community right now, or these are all the stories that are happening like in hip hop, right? So like people who can put together, you know, content around what a different, creative person has done in a way that is interesting. Like I watch a lot of that content for things that I don't plan on consuming myself, right? So I will watch tons of like movie video essays for movies I have no intention of seeing because I want to know what a different creative person's thought about this thing that I'm not actually interested or invested enough to, learn about. And so I think the unsure artist, and I don't like I'm not really comfortable with that term, but I do feel like reporters fall into that, right? Like reporters are not supposed to be the news. Um and they're not really supposed to be the news viewer. They are the conduit, you know, for people in an audience to consume a bunch of things. And I think that that's truly an important function. But like I said, the people who a lot of their content or a lot of their creative contribution is just other people's stuff, it's fine if we had a better understanding of the idea of being a curator, right? It is fine to compile a bunch of stuff. Like you have a theme for, your TikTok. And so you go and aggregate, right, all the different things that come out on a regular basis so that other people don't have to, right? Like you can be like a curated, like kind of subject matter expert, right? In curation. That is very useful. But the people who like you hear something you really like, and so you just show your face over what someone else has said and fuck attribution for the sound, right? Or the people who like you can tell like they go out of their way to like they're not even putting their face in, they're not adding anything to it. They're literally just removing, the watermark. Um so my higher self was all the ways that it's cool. That was my best stuff was all the ways it's cool. And there's so many different ways to be cool. Reporting is necessary, curation is necessary. Like it is so that's necessary. Reactions that, are like you and your audience are watching something together and you're all of that, all of that's great. But the other ones, I don't like I'm trying to find ways to understand it. And I guess if I just move them into the third category, then I technically do understand. Um, but I don't understand the mindset of like okay. I guess where I'm struggling is a person, assuming it's not like a bot, right? A human understands the importance of creativity for attention enough to where they want attention, right? But they have so little respect for the amount of effort that other people are doing. And so they're just like hungry hippo, rah, 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 gobbling up everybody's stuff. But it feels very much like if that were to happen to them, they would be deeply offended, right? Like if so, like if I saw somebody who had like what could have been a curation page, but they were just constantly like messing with the attribution, and so I just follow them all day, and then just take stuff myself to make. You get what I'm saying? Like that's yeah. I'm lost on those people, and I really do think it's probably because I need to move them into the final category. Um, the third type of copycat is the one that we used to mean for those of us that are pre-social media. And you a copycatter, you a copycatter, you a copycatter. That's what it used to mean was this third category, but it has gotten so much worse. So if all creativity comes from the divine, and colonialism has made it not just fashionable, but smart, right? Efficient to just steal from people. And we know that that system is demonic. Then the third type of copycat is the soulless non-creator, right? It is the like wherever you think that creativity reaches you, atheists we've already established. It comes from you and your hard work, right? But for everybody else, if you think that, the divine is speaking to you through the accumulation of your thoughts, through your eyes, you see something and get inspired. Through your hands, you've just always been talented and you develop those gifts. Through your heart, through your soul, wherever you think that creative inspiration is anchoring into you for you to express, these people don't have that. They are soulless. Like they they don't have, there is no anchor point for the kinds of people who will steal their entire sense of self, their entire personas from other people. And I don't mean this in even a super dramatic way. I mean the way that we see like the pretty girl influencers, or even like the, loud, rah rah, give money away boy influencers that were, big some years ago. Like, there comes a point where you're no longer a student and you're just an ever degrading copy of someone else, right? And I hate it. Of course, I hate it. But that's the one that scene, that is what prompted me to make this video and try to work through all of this. Because I had to start thinking about what are all the things that could go wrong for a person to essentially say, fuck a personality, fuck originality. I don't have any of that. God don't talk to me. God don't know me. But I see you and I like you and I want you. And I would rather crawl in your skin. I would rather be you better than you. That's insane. Think about that. Think about, especially if you're like a grown adult, right? Think about waking up every day wanting to be someone else's thousands of years of people making decisions. So I'm very connected to my, my ancestors, especially matrilineally, but like I'm somebody who, like, I can go to three different family cemeteries in three, four, three. I can go to three different family cemeteries within a 3 hour radius, right? And I know that a lot of these were conscious, like these were couplings, these were conscious couplings, right? These were people coming together and making decisions that led to me, right? And I'm so grateful for that. And for a long time, I just assumed everybody else was. And then I realized, like, no, some motherfuckers were hatched. Like, some of them were shut out. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, some people, the reason why they digging around in your trash is because they were born a trash bin bandit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't come from anything. everything that they have made themselves into has come from watching what other people are and not watching and making their own, but just becoming it. Like, I'm just going to become you. And I think that, one of the things about me being highly spiritual, but not having any of the spiritual girly aesthetic is because, like, I'm fucking grown and I don't do aesthetics. Like, I'm me. And I'm very comfortable being me, but I'm comfortable being me because I was a performing arts kid. Like, I performed, I was on stages, I got applause. And academically, I got awards. Like, I had my entire developmental years being enough, being the best, being seen, and leaving aside all the things that that did to my psychology, right? Leaving that aside, the good thing that it did was there's never been anyone that I've wanted to be like. I've never had anyone I looked up to. I've never seen anyone doing something and been like, I want to be just like them. What I have said is, I like what they're doing. I want to do that my way. If I were doing it, I would do it like this. They're so dope. Like, I'm so rah rah. Bro, I'm so rah rah excited about other people's creativity that, like, for example, I might know two choruses to Taylor Swift songs. But I am so glad that lady exists just because of the way that she's touched millions of pumpkin spice latte girls, you know what I'm saying, around the world. And how intense that fan base is about, like, her creativity. I don't care what the actual creativity is. I'm just such a fan of creativity that I'm glad that there are a bunch of people digging for Easter eggs. You know what I'm saying? Like, for like, and so I had this, like, I was like, I'm trying to, like, reverse engineer, right? Because I've always been a one of one. Like, I've always been a star. It's just gonna happen in this point in my life instead of, earlier when I was doing more creative stuff regularly, right? Like, trying to reverse engineer that again, my higher self, out of empathy, right? And so, because I think it's fucking gross and weird and loser behavior as an adult, but because I also think that there had to be a lot of childhood shit that went wrong, I'm gonna try. Like, this is not intended to make anyone feel good. I feel like it needs to be said. Like, I feel like it needs to be said out loud that this is what it looks like to creative people when someone decides, oh, bro, before I do that, especially people who want to compete. It's not just, I'm going, like, there are dudes who will be like, oh, you like how bro do that? I do that shit way better. And then not on some, like, that's rap braggadocio. Braggadocio, right? Braggadocio. That's rap braggadocio, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you can't move. You cannot create anything. You have nothing going on in your mind until you see what someone else is doing and then say, I can do that better. Or bitches will be like, oh, y'all don't like how she did that? I would never do that, right? Like, I have interacted with multiple people in my life who, whatever their personality was before they met me, once they met me, their entire personality became, how can I get people to think that I am her but better? Not better than her because we're alike. How can I get people to think I'm her but better? That is psychotic. That's psychotic. That is, you are a danger to yourself. And God forbid if a person has kids, you might be a danger to your children because that is nuts. That is so. I've worked myself up. I'm sorry that no one ever made you feel like you were good enough at anything. I'm sorry that you were never the handsome one, never the pretty one, never the fine one. I'm sorry that you weren't the smart one, the clever one. I'm sorry you weren't the funny one. I'm sorry you weren't the fastest or the most talented or whatever. I'm sorry you didn't have people clapping for you in the way you needed when it really could have helped you figure out who you are. And depending on how badly you want to be someone else, I'm sorry for whatever happened, especially if it's as dark as I think it was, that made you feel like not only were you not enough to just be you, but it was dangerous to be you. I'm really sorry that you weren't fed what you needed to keep your soul intact so that God can give you the ability to be who you came here to be. I'm sorry that you don't exist. I'm sorry you don't exist. I'm sorry that the world will not get to see what you were put here to do because you're too busy waiting for someone else to tell you what your thought is that you feel safe trying to share with others, either pro or against, depending on what you think will make them like you. I'm sorry, you're starving and empty, and no one will ever love you or you. They will just respond positively or negatively to whatever costume you're wearing. I'm sorry you don't exist. I don't know if I have a conclusion to this video. Um, be kind to people that ask you for help, but don't let them use you. Be kind to people who offer you help, but don't let them rob you. Give attribution if you are a curator or reporter. Rest of y'all, get help. Please. Find you. Get out them trash. Like, get out them people garbage. Find you. Find the nourishment you need. Yeah. Boulder number 3.